Well, this is a video response to the girl using Neotropic's computer, and the very hot girl. But this wouldn't be a question. I mean, at first I'm saying, okay, yeah, this is a question only a dumb blonde would ask. You know, it just seems like such a pointless question. But then I thought about it, and I said, you know, it really is a good question, because you know, I'm having the same problem in a sense with the idea of atheists being nothing. I mean, having no common values with my own. I mean, yeah, we don't believe in the Christian God or the Muslim God, but beyond that, it's all disagreement. I mean, our fundamental understanding is completely different. And you know, it's weird to be categorized as the same thing, and yet, you know, there's atheists waving assault rifles. I mean, to me, that's like, you know, you just don't draw the conclusion that guns are a great thing if you're an atheist just by my own perception of what an atheist should be. And then on the other extreme, there's these atheists who have basically defined nature as God. They believe that nature has been constructed somehow, you know, by nature. Somehow nature constructed itself to have a plan in the end, like intelligence was the plan, or balance was the plan, and that somehow it all makes sense. And that doesn't seem like atheism to me either, because that's just replacing one God with another kind of God who's just built into the structure. I mean, it's sort of like the Buddhist thing or whatever. I mean, it's the, you know, they don't believe in the traditional God, but they still have deified nature. And so to me, it's the same thing. I mean, you might as well believe in leprechauns and unicorns and rainbows, you know, and you know, pots of gold and silver linings and clouds, and you know, whatever else the jargon is of the fairy tale happily ever after, it all somehow makes sense story. And I guess for me, atheism really should mean a disbelief or a cynicism about, I don't know, cynicism, not the right word, skeptic, you know, being skeptical about any story, and being kind of devoted to a fact-based understanding, as fact-based as possible. But that's the trap we're in, is that we don't, you know, it's so hard to find facts that we can put on, you know, right on the money, you know, some facts that are so undeniable that we can impose them on each other or state them as facts, you know. So that's the real problem, is we're all stuck with these ambiguous labels because we really can't define truth, and so we can't put a definition on what that person is. And I just think that atheist really should mean that, just because if you're going to be something else, if you're going to be you know, a humanist or a naturalist, or you know, maybe there's other words for people who maybe don't believe in a traditional supernatural God in the heaven kind of God, but still believe in some sort of you know, supernatural, in the sense that beyond the limits of just the raw laws of evolution, you know, the survival of the fittest, natural selection kind of thing, that doesn't have any, there's no evidence that there's any mechanism in natural selection that has any kind of valve that can regulate for productivity or even sensibility. I mean, it can create as insane a creation, or as brilliant a creation. I mean, it doesn't, there's no rules saying, the only rule is what can happen, and there's nothing in the mechanism that says you know, it can't get this crazy, or it can't get this, you know, it doesn't have any appreciation for how productive the creation is. It can be just, it can be essentially as bad as, think of the worst thing we can come up with, you know, some sort of gulag, some sort of slave state. I mean, nature can create a circumstance where animals are living horrible, horrible existences, but by nature's standards it makes sense, because they're surviving, you know, and they're the fittest survivor. Even though they might spend all of their time in anguish, the only thing that would matter to nature is that they survived. And so, so I guess, you know, there's no point in dragging this out. But for me, you know, a lot of people complain, you know, they gripe because there's some people who are setting standards for atheists that are just too high or too different, or they're adding too much to it. And because they just want this simple definition that says atheist is non-theist, you know, they don't believe in a traditional superpower God thing, supernatural God. And yeah, I don't think that's enough. An atheist really should be more than that. I mean, more than just a anti, you know, theist, an anti the three big religions, you know, but they'll go for the little religions. They'll go for the, yeah, I believe in UFOs and Santa Claus. I mean, you can't, if you're going to be an atheist, you really can't believe in Santa Claus or UFOs or any of this crap. And you're sort of, I think, obligated to accept what we can know, and what we know isn't a pleasant truth, but it's a truth that's really vitally important that we appreciate it. Because if everybody's going to believe there's a happy ending, if everybody's going to believe there's rationality built into the structure, then we're back to the same boat where everybody's going to wait for some sort of natural savior or some deity, but no one's going to do anything to construct a better life, because we're going to use something as stupid as nature as the parallel and say, because it's unnatural, that's you know, wrong. And that's a stupid standard. Nature isn't the standard. God isn't the standard. The only standard is our own perception and our own evaluation based on what we know, based on the facts. So a factualist, I guess, is a good synonym for atheist, maybe. But, you know, it is an interesting question, because there is obviously, almost every atheist has a different definition of the word, in a sense, because the saying doesn't believe in God is just too simplistic. It just doesn't cover all the silly manifestations of God that people do believe in. So, enough said.